Hello everyone, welcome back. So you'll see here in the last couple of weeks since our last update, there's been a fair bit happening in the workshop. Obviously we've got the hoist bay now empty. We've had a little bit of a rejig of things and we've created an extra work bay up the back here under the mezzanine because the fabrication work's about to get underway on FTR3. It's going to be a messy job, so we want to keep all the dust and everything contained. So that'll be a temporary workspace under there while all the messy jobs get done. Now we also need an additional workspace that's clean because of this car that's popped into the workshop. So we'll go through why it's here and what the plan is for it, and also give you an update on FTR3 and the Super Cheap Auto Falcon, and you'll be up to speed by the end of it. I hope you enjoy. So you'll see FTR3 is now in a dedicated work bay. We've taken it off the hoist, or in that bay at least. So what we're going to do is work on the car in here. The reason is there's going to be a lot of fabrication work take place on this car, and it's all about to begin. So we've cleaned out everything under the mezzanine. We're going to put a drop curtain along the top so we can then maintain everything that happens in here. We don't fill the workshop full of metal dust and filings and everything else that goes with it. Now what we've been doing to this point is going through all the original documents that we managed to get from CAMS or Motorsport Australia, which is effectively the Bible of information to get the chassis back to how it was. Now that's an original drawing of how it was all laid out, and effectively from this point back has been modified when the car was transitioned into a ride car. And this section here at the front is different because, as we've covered in our earlier videos, FTR3 had some modifications done in 2001 to increase the front end stiffness. Now if we keep going through the pictures here, we've got the original ID plate, which if I come around here, you will see is still on the car today, because that bar on the driver's side was maintained throughout the car's life and time as a ride car. So you can see there, that's still there, which is really cool. And we've also got original photos of where the rear bar work, which is now gone, mounts up through the rear firewall to the rear shock point. So that's going to be critical to try and get everything back to how it was in the early 2000s. Now one thing that's really interesting, if you have a look at this article here, in the year 2000 before Bathurst, there was obviously a lot of media attention around the car and the fact that it was 20% stiffer. Now it does say in the article that the bracings that go diagonal across the windscreen, obviously one's the Ellery bar, but the other ones were referenced to be meeting in the middle, not 300 mil in from the A-pillar. So if you have a look here, the original bars go from the A-pillar and they meet right in the middle. So on the other chassis that FTR built, they were somewhere in the vicinity of here and then ran diagonal down to this point. So it's really cool to know that those bars are there. I guess the original bars are still there, and that's another little 1%er that we can make sure is right. And if you have a look from the inside of the car, which is probably going to be a little bit hard to show you on camera, there's white paint that's coming through. Now these were black when the car was raced, but they're obviously painted white first, and then all the Ellery bar and these diagonal bars were blacked out. So another change since our last update is we've been able to find a set of rear quarter panels for FTR3. Now obviously our last video, you would have seen we had a set of Gibson rear quarter panels on there for reference. They've been taken off and have gone back into storage. But you can see here, these are a brand new set of rear quarters. They have got a bit of surface rust on them, unfortunately, but given that they haven't been fitted to the car or to a car before, they do give us a really good starting point. Now if we have a look on the inside there, it's all raw material, so it's a little bit, I guess, disappointing that they have got some surface rust on the outside, but they are a brand new genuine set of AU rear quarters, which aren't that easy to find. So it gives us a really good starting point, and I feel this is a better way forward as opposed to drilling out spot welds and then trying to repair that on another set of quarters. Now what we'll do with this obviously is we'll get it dipped or treated so the rust is long gone. We'll put a patch panel over the fuel filler, which is standard practice on these quarter panels, and we'll punch in a set of fuel fillers left and right, so it's supercar spec. One interesting point of reference is I had these photos sent to me during the week, and you'll see here, this is what I believe to be FTR4. And the reason I say that is FTR3 was the last chassis built in-house by Seton, and I believe this chassis is being constructed outside that. Again, I wasn't there at the time, but that's just what I've been advised. So, and you can see here the car's being constructed with the rear quarter panels installed. So what we'll probably do to try and replicate that build process is we'll get these quarter panels all tidied up and prepared, and we'll rivet them on the car, mount them all up before the car's shipped off to have the cage work done and also the roof installed, and then hopefully painted so it all comes back as a nice clean white chassis. We're able to reassemble and bring the car back to its former glory. Now, if you follow the supercars, you'll know last weekend they raced over in Perth, and I had a little bit of a look back, purely just from a nostalgia point of view, how the cars raced there in 2001. Now, interestingly, FTR3 ended up on the front row, and it did give us a good bit of information for this restoration moving forward. So FTR3 was on the front row. The Super Cheap Auto Falcon was also running really competitively, but as you can see here, I think it was race 2. It had a fairly sizable spin in front of the field, and that was it for the weekend because the fields or the grids were progressive.
This car at the end of both races. Oh, look at this! Look! Stephen Ellery,
no.
Cameron. Oh, look at that! Well, it's very lucky, Steve Ellery.
He was very lucky not to get T-boned by about half a dozen cars there. I think that was with one of the Valvoline cars. I need to see it again, but quite an extraordinary situation where they got a little bit out of shape coming off the final turn and up in the weeds. Here it is again from the front angle. And so Garth just moving back to cover his ground.
Look, Cameron McLean, his eyes were hanging out on springs.
I reckon Steve Ellery's would have been even further out of his head. How lucky was he?
Yeah, really incredible.
Now, interestingly, with FTR3, we've been looking for a while to try and understand when the front bar mounts were changed. Now, we've covered off in earlier videos that the original bar mounts from Bathurst in 2000, the bars slid into a junction at the front, where later the car was pictured with this section on the front of it, which there were screws at the front of the bar to hold it all in place. Now, I was speaking with a couple of ex-team members, and they said to me they made this change because the front bar of FTR3 was getting knocked off with not a lot of contact. Now, if you recall, 2000 Bathurst, it had a knock in the front bar comes off. You have a look at this race meeting in Perth in 2001, the car was running exceptionally strong, gets a knock in the side from Craig Lowndes off the grid, the front bar comes off. So it was at this point they made the change to try and make it more robust. So if the car did get a hit in either side at the front quarter panel, it didn't remove the only attachment point, which was the outer point of the front bars. That change was made at this point in 2001 and stayed with this car for the rest of its life. So we've had a lot of questions from followers wanting to know what's happening with the Super Cheap Auto Falcon. So in reality, it's not that far away from being track ready. We do have to do a little bit of service work on the car and also tidy up the airbox, radiator ducting, and a few other little bits and pieces. And really it's just service work after that. So set of brakes, fluids, and we'll change everything again to make sure that there's no hidden nasties. The idea at that point would be to get the car on a dyno, give it a run, get someone to check the engine mapping and really make sure that when it does go on a track, it's right. Now, at this point, I'm not too sure as far as where and when it'll be run. If you've been following the story from the beginning, you'll know that there were rough plans in place late last year and even earlier this year to run the car. And you'll be aware that I got crook unexpectedly, so all the plans had to change. At this point, I won't be driving it just due to circumstances, but it would be really cool to put somebody notable in the car, which I'm working to try and put together. So that will all take place sooner than later. The main priority at the moment is to get the fabrication work finished on FTR3, get all the work done that we can that doesn't involve the cage, and then obviously from a budget point of view, the more I can do myself, obviously the further the budget goes, and then the car will be shipped off to have the cage done. Now the car will obviously disappear for a little while that happens. We'll restore all the componentry. Obviously there's engines, gearboxes, differentials and everything else. So we'll restore all that and keep the content coming while the chassis is away. And we'll obviously finish off the Super Cheap Auto Falcon and get it back on the track. Now, in addition to that, while FTR3 is away, I have this car here that has popped up. Now, the plan is with this car, at this stage, it's not another project. Well, it is a project, but in the sense of we've got to go over the car and get an idea what it's going to need to get a track ready and also get it back to period correct. Now, this car hasn't been on a track for a long time. The engine hasn't been turned over for 10 plus years, so it's really a little bit of an unknown. And unlike FTR3 and the super cheap auto Falcon, this car did spend a lot of time bashing around the Dunlop series, Fujitsu series, or Super 3, Super 2 as you call it now. So it's a lot of the componentry has evolved over time, where obviously the other two cars were raced main game, a tiny bit of Super 2, and then obviously moved on to a ride car. So this car is completely different. I'm expecting the chassis is going to be a lot more damaged as well, and the car will be carrying a lot more scars. So at this point, the idea behind it is just to go over the car, see what's original, see what's not, and I'll bring you along from the journey. And really from that point, it depends on what we find as to what happens from there, which is out of my control. So we'll keep you updated. Now, a lot of you have been pretty cluey with this chassis stuff. And if you recall when we had FTR3 and we announced we had FTR3, I gave you some clues and quite a few of you worked out what car it was. So Tuesday night, the time has come. We're going to rip the cover off this new project that we've got sitting over here. So the main reason why we're doing this now is we've had a lot of people message want to know, hey, what's coming up? So we thought we'd introduce you to this new project that we've got sitting under the cover over here. Now, a lot of guys have commented, so without dragging it on, there'll be a few clues pop up throughout the week, and then we'll rip the covers off and have a little bit of a look at it. Now, obviously the clues for tonight is a car that's been obviously nowhere near a racetrack for a long time. And also the main clue for tonight is the shape of it and what's under the cover. So stay tuned. I'll sneak out some clues throughout the week, either on Facebook or our YouTube channel. Have a bit of a look, and we'll see how all you early 2000 to 2010 V8 Supercar fans, how good your knowledge is. So it'll be an exciting time, I'm sure. So we'll push on here. As you can see, there's a fair bit happening, and I look forward to bringing you more sooner than later. Thanks again for your support.